Someone walks up to you and says, "Hey, you did an amazing job on that presentation." Simple, right? A nice little compliment. But instead of smiling and saying thanks, you freeze. Your face gets hot. Your brain scrambles for an escape route. You mumble something like, "Oh, it wasn't that good," or "I just got lucky," and then you spend the next 10 minutes replaying the interaction in your head, wishing you'd handled it differently. Sound familiar? Maybe it's you. Maybe it's someone you know. That person who deflects every compliment like it's a personal attack. But here's the thing. There's actually a hidden psychology behind why some people can't handle being praised, and it goes way deeper than just being humble. Let's talk about it. First, there's the person who genuinely doesn't believe the compliment. You tell them they look great, and they immediately think you're lying. Not because you're a liar, but because their internal voice is so loud, so critical that it drowns out anything positive you say. It's like you're speaking a different language. They look in the mirror and see flaws. You look at them and see someone put together, confident, capable, but they can't reconcile the two. So when you compliment them, it creates this weird cognitive dissonance. Your words don't match their reality, and instead of accepting the compliment, they reject it. They push it away because letting it in would mean challenging the story they've been telling themselves for years. And that's uncomfortable. That's painful. It's easier to say, "No, you're wrong," than to consider that maybe, just maybe, they're being too hard on themselves. Then there's the person who feels unworthy. This one's a bit different. They might even believe your compliment is true, but they don't think they deserve it. Maybe they grew up in an environment where praise was rare, where love was conditional, where they had to earn every ounce of approval. So now, as an adult, when a compliment freely without them having to work for it, it feels wrong. Like they're getting something they didn't earn. And that triggers guilt, shame even, because deep down they believe they're not enough, that they're fundamentally flawed. So when you say something nice, it's like you're shining a light on the gap between who they think they are and who you think they are. And that gap, it feels impossible to bridge. So they deflect, they minimize, they say things like, "It was nothing," or "Anyone could have done it." Not because they're fishing for more compliments, but because they genuinely can't accept that they're worthy of praise. But here's the twist. There's also the person who's terrified of expectations. You compliment them, and suddenly they feel this invisible pressure to live up to it. You say, "You're so talented," and now they're thinking, "Great, now I have to be talented all the time. What if I mess up? What if the next thing I do isn't good enough?" It's like the compliment becomes a trap, a standard they're afraid they can't maintain. So instead of feeling good, they feel anxious. And the easiest way to relieve that anxiety? Shut the compliment down. Make it go away before it becomes a burden, before it turns into something they have to prove. Because once you set the bar high, they're convinced they'll fail. And failing after being praised? That feels worse than never being praised at all. Another type is the person who's deeply private, almost guarded. They don't like being seen, not in a shy way necessarily, but in a "I don't want anyone looking too closely at me" way. Compliments feel like spotlights. They draw attention. They make you visible. And for someone who's spent years blending into the background, that visibility is threatening. Maybe they've been hurt before. Maybe they've learned that being noticed can be dangerous, that standing out makes you a target. So they've developed this protective shell, and when you compliment them, it's like you're trying to crack that shell open. You're trying to see them. And that's terrifying. So they brush it off. They change the subject. They redirect the attention back to you. Anything to get out of the spotlight. And then there's the person who just doesn't know how to receive. No deep trauma, no self-esteem issues. They just never learned. Maybe they grew up in a family that didn't do compliments, or maybe they've always been the one giving praise, not receiving it. So when someone says something nice, they don't have a script. They don't know the right response. Thank you feels too simple, too small. So they overcompensate. They explain. They justify. They turn a 2-second exchange into an awkward monologue about how it wasn't really them, it was a team effort, or the lighting was good, or they had help. And by the time they're done, the moment's gone, the compliment's deflated, and they walk away feeling like they ruined it. Here's the thing, though. All of these reactions, they're not about the compliment. They're about what the compliment represents. Acceptance, visibility, worth. And for some people, those things are harder to hold than you'd think. Because accepting a compliment means accepting that you're seen, that you matter, that you're enough. And if you've spent years believing you're not, if you've built your identity around being less than, around staying small, around not taking up space, well, a compliment can feel like an earthquake. It shakes the foundation, and that's uncomfortable. So next time you see someone squirm when you praise them, maybe give them a little grace. Maybe they're not being difficult. Maybe they're just navigating a world inside their head that you can't see. A world where "you did great" sounds like a lie or a trap or a threat. Which type are you? Or maybe you know someone who fits one of these. Either way, now you know. There's a psychology behind the discomfort, and understanding it, that's the first step to healing it.